Island. I had been heavily involved with the planning and layout and construction of that park. So when I came down here, it was relatively organized. It was a big undertaking. If we had probably known what we were getting into, we maybe wouldn't have. I mean, we were all so young, and I was 26, 27 years old at that time, and we were just making things happen. And I would make, as general manager on the construction and the operations aspect, 100 to 200 decisions a day on the spot in the field. I had a little motorcycle I had to ride around out on the site. There'd be something going on over here, and somebody had to make that decision, cut the tree or plant a tree or move something over. But it's huge because this is a large park. It was an important park to the company. It was exciting. It was challenging. It was scary. I mean, King's Dominion was the second most expensive park that was built at that point in time after Disney World. We spent $60 million building this park. I was, when I came down here, I was 26 years old, and the chairman of the board gave me the keys to the kingdom and said, you know, get this done. Land was cheap. It was on 95. We had to put the exit in here over I-95. That exit didn't exist here, and we worked with the state, but we ended up paying for that. The park paid for that exit. But we felt that this was a market that hadn't been serviced. Little did we know that Busch Gardens was going to open 60 miles away within a week of us, and we'd have two of the greatest theme parks in the United States going at it head-to-head. We bought 2,500 acres here, and I think we paid, if I remember correctly, about $2,500 an acre. We brought it in on schedule. We actually finished the park 2 weeks ahead of what we anticipated the opening date to be. So we had a little comfort zone there that we worked with. We had built a Eiffel Tower at Kings Island, so I'd been through that. This one was very precise, just like that one. Pieces came together. They weren't out of sync this far at the top. I mean, you're up 333 feet, and the bolts are that close together. So it was an exciting time. A difficult time because of the inflation that hit us during the 70s. And I was responsible for the budget to our board of directors, and we were building International Street. I had half of the street built when we got hit with some of the most intense inflation and interest rates we'd ever seen. And I built the other side of the street. The other side of the street cost double what the east side of the street did. It's like building a city, building a theme park. And when you're a general manager of a park, and this hasn't changed in 40 years, you're like the mayor of the city. And you have to be able to focus and work in all of these areas. So we were so self-sustaining and self-productive, we just made it happen. We had a good team that we brought from Cincinnati, who was a secondary line of defense at Kings Island, and those people came down, and they were all young and energetic and understood the business, and we started amassing our personnel for the different departments, and we went through literally Hanover County hiring people. For example, one of the fellows who rose to directorship here in the park was a bag boy at A&P in Ashland. And we went in and saw him. He had such a great attitude. We said, look, how would you like to come to work at a theme park? With that attitude, we're going to make something out of you. And he came with us and became one of our best employees. That was Chance Hester. But it was really an undertaking that we never really stopped to think about. We just got it done. We were very organized. We had weekly construction and operations meetings, which dovetailed together so that everyone knew what was happening in the field from a schedule and from a budgetary standpoint, and how the operations people were feeding that and getting prepared so they could operate the parks as it became more and more on the ground. I mean, as it developed. So it was a big undertaking. as I said, I had to make 100, 200 decisions every day, and some of them you didn't know whether they were going to be right or wrong, but you had to make the decision because concrete was being poured, holes were being dug, trees were being removed, trees were being put in, and you just had to make that decision. And a general manager of a park, and this is no different today than it was 40 years ago, he is what, or she is what the name implies, a generalist. Know a little bit about food, know a little bit about marketing, know a little bit about finance, know a little bit about operations, know a little bit about HR, know a little bit about safety. Well, you've got your team that are all specialists in that. And you're sitting, my job, I always said, was sitting at this huge desk with these controls and dialing the dials to try to keep everything fluid and moving together and keep the crosshairs as close as you could, aligned together. And you'd dial up marketing and you'd get them right, and finance would go out. And then you'd get finance going and they'd be right, and then operations would go out. So you had to just keep moving. It was constant adjustment. It was really management of people. That's what my job was, because the people were getting the work done in the field, and I was managing them and kept them moving and hopefully kept them productive. And that's what a general manager does. It's an infectious thing, working in a theme park. You either love it or you hate it. There is no in between. You don't tolerate it because it's too intense. The hours are too long. You're called upon for too many different types of inputs. So there were people who came and left. There were people who stayed. The people who and that happens in any business. And the ones who stayed, they became our first A team and developed in, and then they taught the next generation and the next generations out. And here we are 40 years later. There are some people still here who were here in the beginning, and a lot of legacy from those original people has been throughputed to the individuals that still are here in the park and managing it. So.